I mean, if this doesn't make you want to run out and start knitting, I don't know what will. Hi, my name is Kylie, and welcome to our tight knit community. Our tight knit community is a place where um, women who are looking to create and heal come together and experience joy through the transformative practice of knitting and community. So, welcome. I thought it would be cool for us to jump on and do a little knitting together. I am right now working on a baby blanket. The blanket is for my friend who just had a baby. Well, her baby is 6 months old, so I'm trying to get the blanket to her before like the kid goes off to college. But this is the pattern that this is the way the blanket is looking. Very squishy. The pattern is really simple. It's just a simple kind of broken rib knit pattern. I don't know where I got it from. But the yarn that I'm using is a really squishy yarn, very accessible. It's called Wool Ease. Let me show it to you. This is the big skein of it. It took 7 skeins, I think. But it's Wool Ease, which you can get in any box store, Michael's, AC Moore, whatever. You can pick it up from there. And even better if you have a coupon. Y'all know I love a Michael's coupon. Anyway, so I thought it would be cool for us to get on here and knit. Sometimes when you're trying to get started with the knitting practice, it can be really tricky like to stick with it and to find a time every day or every night to knit. And so what I like to do sometimes is if I'm really being slow or life is really busy or hectic or whatever, sometimes I'll just knit a row. And so yeah, that's what I do. I thought we could just knit together. So if you're watching online, let us know where you're watching from. And if you're knitting, what are you knitting and what yarn are you using? That would be great to share. While we're at it, please subscribe to the channel if you are interested in starting a knitting hobby. A crochet hobby is okay too. We'll be talking about yarn and just stuff. So crocheting could also work. So let's see. I mentioned in my first video that one of the main reasons that I love to knit is because of the yarn. I think the yarn is just absolutely amazing. Like I said, this blanket is very squishy. The yarn is really easy to work with, and I love the way that it's kind of like oatmeal-y and kind of blends together. So this is a yarn that I love. I've got a couple other chunky yarns. So let's start like with these big chunkies. So this is a chunky yarn. It's a chunky yarn because it needs big needles. And as you can see, it's really thick. Like I said, this is Wool Ease. You can get it from AC Moore, Michael's, whatever, pretty much everywhere. This is one of my go-to yarns. There's a bunch of patterns that are really quick for you to use with that. So that's really good. Another yarn that I am absolutely in love with is Cascade. So this is Cascade yarn. I love really all Cascade yarns. This one, do you see that purple? It's so it's like a heathery purple. It's a really chunky yarn. And look how pretty it knits up. I'm making like a scarf, but it has like a leaf in it. So if you can't tell, I have more than one project going at once, which is fine. There's no rules about that. And in fact, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a knitter who does not have at least 5. I'm going to say 5, at least 5 projects going at the same time. So this is Cascade yarn. I love it because of the color and because it's really, really textury. So sometimes, depending on my day, if I need to work with something that's a little rougher, then I will knit this or finish my blanket. So those are 2 kinds of yarns that I often knit with. Another yarn that I adore, is Malabrigo Rasta. Malabrigo is a label of yarn, and then Rasta is a type of yarn. I actually am out of Malabrigo Rasta, and sometimes it's hard to get it. But this Manos, I think I'm saying it probably wrong, but it's basically the same. I just got this skein of yarn from a new yarn store I went to in Great Falls. Anyway, do you see the, I mean, if this doesn't make you want to run out and start knitting, I don't know what will. So this yarn is so, it feels wonderful. It feels very squishy. But again, it's the color, right? The way that the yarn is dyed. I will tell you that this company, Manos, as well as Malabrigo, they do an amazing job of dyeing the yarn. This is another Manos skein of yarn that is similar to the Malabrigo. And just look at it. Now, as you see, I don't even know what I'm going to make with this yet. Well, I think I have a hat pattern, but I just love it because of the way that it feels and the color. So look at both of those, right? Just yummy, spectacular color. You really can't beat it. Those are two kind of chunkier yarns. I wanted to share a couple other kinds of yarn that I love to work with. So this is a Cascade yarn. This is by the same people who make the big chunky. And as you can see with this, these colors are a little bit more like they're heathery. They're just kind of oatmeal and kind of subdued. This though knits up really, really nicely for like blankets, sweaters, whatever. Um, I like it because for a neutral color, it's still got a little bit of character to it. So I think that's pretty cool. This is Eco Cloud by Cascades Yarn. Like I said, I'll leave the links in my description. But if you really needed to get some yarn in a jam, this is like a good sight unseen yarn to buy. Whatever color you're looking for, just grab it, get yourself going on whatever project you're working on. The last two kinds of yarn. So this yarn is from Lady Dye Yarns, which is a black yarn dyer, a black woman who dyes yarns. And first of all, look how deep that color is, right? So good. This is a little thinner, so it's not as thick as the thick. But the color is really, really vibrant. So I actually got this a couple months ago in a box from her, and I am really quite excited to use it. I haven't used it yet, obviously. This yarn is Sweet Breeze yarn, and this yarn has some color gradation, as you can tell. So let me tell you about this yarn. This yarn is from Sao Paulo. Whenever I travel, I like to go to yarn stores and get some yarn. And so this woman actually has a studio out of her home and she dyes the yarn herself. And so I got a couple skeins of this yarn and I'm excited to use it. It feels good. It's soft. It's wool, so it's a little bit scratchier, but it feels wonderful. And then the last thing I wanted to show you was these yarns that I'm in love with. Sorry. Do you just see this? Do you see it? This kind of yarn, first of all, is gorgeous. Do you see it? It's absolutely gorgeous. It feels amazing. This kind of yarn and this yarn, all the yarns. Do you see this yarn? Let's talk about this yarn. This yarn comes in a braid like this. And then what happens is you unwind it. And when you knit it, it will obviously knit like this. So it'll kind of be in a gradation, which is amazing, amazing, amazing. Some yarns, when you buy them, they are just solid, right? So the yarn that I showed you for the blanket, it's just brown, 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 brown. Some yarns, though, they stripe or they like have these color changes. So let me show you what I mean when I say that it stripes. I have all this yarn here to show y'all, to get y'all out the door knitting because I want you knitting. So this yarn comes like this, and this is self-striping yarn, which means that as you knit, the stripes go automatically. So you don't have to worry about putting stripes in it. So see how this knits? See, the stripes are in it. This is the same kind of thing. This is a one ball of yarn that once you knit it, as you knit it, it changes color, which is amazing. So it goes through all these different colors, which I think is dope. So I think you can't really go wrong with it. I'm going to put the links to all these different yarns in my description so that I hope you go out and buy some. But if you can't get to a yarn store and you can't get to Michael's or whatever, you can go on Amazon if you have to, and you can buy the yarn, or you can call a yarn store and they will deliver, they'll send the yarn to you. And then that way you can get started knitting. For now, let's go ahead and knit a row. So, like I said, my friend's having this baby. Well, had a baby. She was having a baby. And so I wanted to make her a blanket. And this is one of my go to blanket patterns because it's really quick. But life has been lifing. And so I have not been as quick with it as I would have liked. But it is a thought that counts. So I'm just going to finish this blanket and get it to her. So let's get knitting. If you are getting started, then now would be a great time for you to, cast on, and we can knit a couple rows here together. What I'm looking at right now is my pattern. So like I said, this is a pretty easy pattern. And so I have it on just a little card. It's just a 2-row pattern. We can talk patterns for a little bit. So some patterns require a lot of knit 3 purl. Some patterns require a lot of concentration. This pattern does not. It's just knit 3 purl 1, knit 3 purl 1. So that's what we're gonna do. I like giving people baby blankets. I think it's a really heartfelt thing to give, and obviously babies need blankets, but there's something about it that I think is really sentimental, and so that's what I like to do. So I keep a couple of these skeins of yarn on hand, and when I'm having a good month or year or whatever with my timing, then I go ahead and, when I find out the person's pregnant, I get started knitting the blanket. This, I don't know what kept me from knitting this before. Like I said, the child is 6 months old, so hopefully she'll get it before she turns 1. But again, I think it's such a wonderful sentiment to knit somebody a baby blanket. So don't forget, leave in the comments, what are you working on? And do you like to knit for gift giving? Do you knit for yourself? Do you knit to sell your products? Do you do all three? Let us know in the comments. And let's go ahead and get through with a couple of these rows. One of the ways that I pick my yarn I either pick it because I've seen a pattern, I've seen someone knit something, and it is gorgeous, gorgeous. And I want that particular pattern with that particular yarn. One time I played myself because there was a pattern that I saw which was so cute, and the yarn was a little pricey. It was a little pricey. So I tried to get some cheaper yarn, but it did not turn out the same. Most times that won't happen. Most times you can get a comparable yarn. But in this instance, the yarn that I got was obviously not comparable because it was not the same. And I've never actually worn that scarf. I make a lot of scarves. I'm kind of afraid of measuring things for a sweater, but maybe I'll do that as a part of this journey here. Do like a sweater knit along or something like that. Anyway, so the ways that I choose my yarn, number one, are if there's a particular pattern, then I will get the yarn that goes with that pattern. That's easy. Number two is if I like the way that it feels. So there must be a yarn over here. This self-striping yarn, I really like the way that it felt. This yarn, I really like the way that this yarn felt. And so that's why I got this yarn. So that's the second way that I would choose my yarn, is based on how it feels. And then the third way I would choose my yarn is based on how it looks. And so this yarn, I mean, it felt amazing, but I was also just in love with this color pattern and the way that it all kind of came together. So those are the three ways that I buy yarn, either for the pattern or because I like the way that it feels, and then I just find something to make with it, or I like the way that it looks, and then I find something to make with it. So that's how I choose my yarn. I'm knitting a blanket, so the rows are big, obviously. So sometimes when I'm really busy and I go to knit a row, then it really is just a row because the whole row has over 100 stitches. So it's going to take me, a minute or two to knit the whole row, more like 5 minutes to get across the row. If I was knitting something smaller like socks or a scarf or the sleeve of a sweater or a shawl or whatever, it might not take me as long to knit a row. So when I say knit a row, maybe I would knit 2 or 3 rows. The key is just consistency. And so even if you can only find 5 minutes in a day, I say take the 5 minutes and go ahead and knit. Sometimes I put on my favorite song and just kind of sit still and take a 5 minute break from the world. 5 minutes, do a knit a row, listen to the song, and then go back to my work day or whatever the thing was that I was doing beforehand. That's a wonderful way to just row by row get your projects completed. And also just enjoy the yarn, which as you all know is really what I'm really here for, is to feel the yarn. So there. So I finished the row. I'm gonna go back and do one more row. And before I do that, I wanted to just say thank you. Thank you for knitting along with me. I hope you got something done on your rows as well. And again, my name is Kylie, and I would love it for you to continue to hang out with us. I will be back next Wednesday for us to do some more knitting together. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel, to like the video, and to send this along to anybody who you know either needs a hobby or who is interested in knitting. I'd love it if they would join us. All right. Thanks. Have a good night. Bye.